Hey, everybody, it's Mike from The Mike Wagner Show, powered by Songwriter Studios and brought to you by official sponsor of The Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson's The Missing, available on Amazon and paperback and ebook. We're here with a terrific Southwest singer-songwriter who began his career at 15 years old. He was a state finalist of the Jimmy Dean Country Showdown at that age, 15 or 16. He also played in Santa Fe, New Mexico, Durango, Colorado, and also before moving over to Nashville, later performed in Texas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. He's been all over the Southwest. And he won numerous awards in Western swing, and he's got numerous followers on Spotify, YouTube, and also iHeartRadio, Podbean, and Pandora, and a lot of platforms out there. And he's played with the Rocky Mountain Playboys, and he is back home again with All of Me. We'll be featuring all that from his latest release, Lively and Jadam Plus Studios in beautiful Los Alamos, New Mexico, not too far from Santa Fe. The amazing singer-songwriter from the Southwest who began his career at 15, and we'll be talking about All of Me and more. And here he is, the multi-talented Eric Diamond. Eric, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's great to have you on board too, Eric. So you're a singer-songwriter from the Southwest, beginning your career at 15, and you're a state finalist of the Jimmy Dean Country Showdown at 15. You also played in Santa Fe, New Mexico, Durango, Colorado. Later, before moving on to Nashville, you later performed in Texas, Missouri, and also Oklahoma. You won numerous awards in Western swing, and you have a number of followers on Spotify, YouTube, and more. You also had They Call Me a Playboy, which is part of your repertoire. You also play with the Rocky Mountain Playboys, and you have a new album that's out called All of Me. Will be, you will be playing some of the songs like title track, Oklahoma Bound, When Right is Wrong, and everything else. And before getting all that, Eric, tell us how you first got started.
Well, I grew up in a village, or a community, I should say, where the number one industry was horses and mules. In southern Colorado. I was born in northern New Mexico, but I actually lived the majority of my life in a place called Vallecito, Colorado, which is a small mountain town at the base of the Weminuche Wilderness, which is the biggest wilderness in the United States other than Alaska. And so my influences, with all these cowboys from all over, Montana, Nevada, the Dakotas, Texas, Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arizona, would come to break horses and do seasonal work. And that was my love of the cowboy lifestyle. I got exposed to a lot of Western music, cowboy music. Of course, I grew up in a home where Johnny Cash and Marty Robbins and Patsy Cline and George Jones and Jim Reeves and Johnny Horton and many other artists were played on a regular daily basis. I started singing at a very young age for my own pleasure more than anything. And sang in the choir from the time I was 10 years old. At the age of 15, as you mentioned earlier, I was in the Jimmy Dean Country Showdown, made it to the regional finals. The following year, at 16 years of age, I made it to the regional finals of the Charlie Daniels Country Showdown.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I got my first paying job at the age of 15, and I was hooked ever since. Worked for many years as what they call in the business a hired gun. Bands would hire me as a front man singer, and I did that for many years until I was in my early 20s, and I ended up working with my first road band, a band called Cowtown Swing, based out of Colorado Springs, Colorado, and the band leader was a gentleman named Bobby Francis, who was the steel guitarist that had worked for John Conley during the rose-colored glasses era. And Bobby took me under his wing, taught me a lot about the business, and we spent 5 years traveling around primarily Colorado, a little bit in Kansas, performing every week. Then that band, different members went different ways. One gentleman was going back to college to get a degree. I was the youngest guy in the band. I was in my 21, 22, those years. Everybody else was in their 30s or 40s. I moved to Nashville. I went there with a guitar player named David LeDuc, who had worked for a major label artist named Jeff Johnson, who was also a mentor of mine. Jeff was with either Atlantic Records or Arista. I can't honestly remember, but he was opening for Gene Watson, Merle Haggard, the biggest names in the game at that time. And Jeff was the one that really turned me on to Western swing music. I'd always liked that music, but I just always thought it was, a form of traditional country music, which it is, but I didn't realize that there was, a separation or a whole different genre. And Jeff was the one he was a state champion fiddle player from Oklahoma.
Mm.
He's the one that turned me on to Bob Wills music. And for those of you who don't know Bob Wills, you should do a Google search. He's in the Country Music Hall of Fame and the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's the one that created this form of music called Western swing. I worked with that when I moved to Nashville. I got to sing in every single bar on Broadway, every bar on Printer's Alley. I landed a songwriting job for Ronnie Stoneman from Hee Haw, which television show you probably remember.
I remember very well Buck Owens, Roy Clark, and singing about, oh, my dog died off the wall. I remember that one. Yeah.
And I really, even to this day, I don't really consider myself a songwriter. I lived with Win Varble, and Gerald Smith was at our place often because Win and him had grown up together and were longtime friends from Georgia. And those guys are some of the biggest songwriters in country music. They had a giant success. But I was there at the very beginning, right? When everybody was just starting out, and I ended up in Nashville for about a year or so. And then I had to come back west for some family matters. I came back west, did some work for my father for the summer, and then ended up back at our home in Colorado. And I ended up getting a job as a high school basketball coach. I had played basketball.
I like that. Interesting.
Yeah, I had played ball in college. I played for McMurray University in Abilene, Texas. And then I also played for the University of Colorado in Colorado Springs. And but I took that coaching job for 2 years. It was the best thing. It was really good for me at that time to be back around young people that were goal oriented and just get my life back together a little bit, because I'd gone through a divorce and some hard times. And then I got a phone call one night from a gentleman named David Blanchard. Most people in the music scene knew him as Bondad Dave. And he was a band leader for a band called the Midnight Rose Band. And Dave called me, and we had worked together in a lot of throw together bands over the years.
Mm-hmm.
And he called me up and said, "Hey, Eric, we got 27 nights booked, and our lead singer just packed his bags in the middle of the night and headed home to Louisiana.
Uh-oh.
Can you help us out?" And I said, "Sure." And that was on a Friday. And I said, "I'll be there Monday." Well, those 27 nights turned into 3 years. Which, yeah. And that was great, and I was working with some wonderful musicians in that band, and some of the guys I'd known over the years from different throw together bands and doing jobs with different guys here and there. We worked with that band for 3 years. Then I took a job at a big state-of-the-art nightclub that's claim to fame was it had the biggest dance floor between Denver and Dallas. It was a place called Horny's Dance Hall and Saloon, named after a big Texas Longhorn steer, actually. But yeah, play on words there. And when I worked there for a year. All the top touring road bands that were playing the Abrams circuit would come through there. So I met all these incredible, singers, musicians, etc. Met Little Texas. They played there. They were on their. They had just signed with a major label, but they were fulfilling their club obligations. Neil McCoy performed there, and all the great bands. Scotty Frio and Lickety Split. That was Arizona Band of the Year. Check Rippey and the Roadrunners. There was a Curb Records act called Blake and Brian at the time, and the band was called Loaded Dice. Got to meet, work with all those guys. Well, the club, I started out as a security guard, but within 2 weeks they moved me to floor manager because I knew everybody. I knew all the rodeo cowboys. I'd grown up with all these guys, so I was able to diffuse problems before they really escalated. Mm-hmm. So that's why they made me floor manager. And then they found out I could sing and dance because I've also been a competition dancer and performance dancer since I was 15 years old.
Oh, wow.
And so which is what got my foot in the door in Nashville the first time and got my foot in the door in Texas 15 years ago. Everybody, they noticed you as a dancer first, and everybody wants to know your story. Who is this guy? Then they found out I was the singer. And so while I worked at that club, I put a Rolodex together of musicians and had built a lot of friendships with all these guys. And I put my own band together called Eric Diamond and the Rocky Mountain Playboys. We started out locally, and we had a giant following, which was great because clubs that had never even used live music before were booking us because we were drawing such a big crowd. Then we spilled over into a club in Farmington, New Mexico, that was an agent-only club, meaning they use a booking agent only to book their acts. But one of the waitresses there had told the owner about this band in Colorado that had a giant following and how great we were and so forth. And so the club owner took a gamble on us, gave us an opportunity. We ended up working there for, probably 7 years off and on.
Wow.
And
amazing.
he gave me a 5-year contract if I wouldn't play his crosstown competition. He guaranteed me a week every 5 weeks for a 5-year contract. So we did that because when you're playing the A-room circuit, most clubs you're playing 5 nights a week. You load in and you play 5 nights a week. Some were maybe 6. There was one club on the circuit that was a 7-nighter. Occasionally you'd get a 3 or a 4-nighter that paid the same money, which those were the jobs that everybody loves, right?
And, who doesn't,
Yeah, exactly. But anyhow, the thing just snowballed. A friend of mine, Czech Rippey, that played fiddle on the Grand Ole Opry, he was on a Star Search with a band called the Delk Band that had huge success. And they still do reunion gigs now and then. But they had been on at that time, that was like, what American Idol is today, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and he had played on the Opry, and he played with a major label artist as a sideman playing fiddle. So he got us into a club in Ruidoso, New Mexico called Wind, Place, and Show, which was a historic roadhouse. People like Willie Nelson had played there. Mel Tillis played there. Kenny Chesney was playing there on that circuit the same time I was, and other artists, So anyhow, all of a sudden, these national agents are going, well, who's this band that's got in these clubs without an agent? So agents started to come to us. And by the time it snowballed, and by the time it was all said and done, we had 13 national agents booking us, and we were working in an 11-state region. We went.
Oh my gosh. 13 agents booking you? That's amazing.
Yeah, we went because I wouldn't sign exclusive with anybody because they couldn't offer me enough work with an exclusive deal. So I would tell the agents, hey, we'll pay you commission on any job you get us. But unless you can guarantee you're going to keep me working every week, because that was our goal. Everybody was in it to win it, so to speak. So we worked all the time. I looked at our old calendars. We did 39 weeks in a row without a week off at one point. That was our longest run. But we worked in 11-state region. We went town to town, state to state for 6 years. We're touring 11 states. We played very little in Texas, but we did play in Texas. Played all over New Mexico, Colorado, played in Arizona, Nevada, Montana, Wyoming, North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. And loved it. I mean, that was a dream come true for me to be playing on the A-room circuit at that time. That had been a big goal of mine. And when we actually accomplished that, that was a huge thing for me, something I was thrilled about, because we were actually making a living playing music, you know what I mean? Full time. And we were just about to go into Canada. We had an agent that was going to send us into Canada, and we had 2 big cruise lines wanting to use us. One was Carnival, and I honestly can't remember the other cruise line. But my father came down with cancer.
Ooh.
I was actually playing in Billings, Montana at the time. My mother called me and said, hey, your father's taking a turn for the worse. You ought to think about coming home. And I said, yeah, I'll be there, And we had like 2 or 3 nights left in Montana. We finished up the job. I called all the agents and said, hey, this is what's going on. And I built a good relationship with all these agents because they knew they could count on me. I always did what I said I was going to do. They always did what they said they were going to do. They always got their commission checks. So we had built more than just a professional relationship. We built a friendship. And I let him know what was going on with my father. And I said, don't give us any more dates. We will fulfill all the dates that are already on the calendar, but don't give, because I didn't know if it was going to be a 3-month affair or a 3-year affair, but I knew I was going to go take care of my father, period, the end.
Mhm.
Then I sat down with all the guys in the band, explained what was going on. And they had all, you live together, you eat together, you travel together, you become like brothers. And they all knew my folks, many times when we were traveling through, my folks would have the entire band over for dinner or for,
Nice.
things like that. So I had a little horse facility, little 10-acre horse farm, and I had it set up to where I could bring in musicians from coast to coast. We all lived on the property, and then we traveled together in a custom conversion van, big extended van with an equipment trailer. And I told the guys, hey, you can live here as long as you need to or as long as you want to, but I've got to go take care of Dad down in New Mexico. So the piano player, Rex Herring, who was a top-notch piano player that had worked with a lot of artists, and he worked for years for Walker Williams, who's a big name in the Denver area. Rex stayed and took care of the house for over a year, which was great because he was by far the most responsible one in the band, myself included. And and because he was a pianist, he could do solo work. So he stayed busy doing solo work. He took care of the farm while I was gone. The drummer, Ronnie Klein, stayed for quite a few months. Ronnie's like a son to me. He was the second youngest guy in the band. He was 22 years old at the time. And he ended up playing drums for Fiddlin' Frenchy Burke and Doug Kershaw, some pretty big names. He's in Phoenix, Arizona, still playing music to this day. The guitar player I had at the time was a kid named Paul Bucks, whose father had played for Ernest Tubb. He was a Texas troubadour. Paul immediately landed a gig because he was a great little up-and-coming hot guitar player. He ended up getting a job in Louisville, Kentucky. He left almost immediately for that job. And another guy in the band immediately landed a gig down in the Phoenix area. And I think playing bass, if my memory serves me correct. But anyhow, I went home. I took care of my father. My father passed. I stuck around for a while because my mother, they'd been married for like 45 years, wanted to make sure she was going to be okay. And then I pursued some other endeavors. And at that time, I thought my music career was over. I'd done it for 22 years straight. And at that time, Nashville's policy was they wouldn't sign anybody over the age of 35. That was kind of their cutoff. And actually what they wanted was 21 to 26-year-olds. That's pretty much what they were signing. And I became good friends with Carl Acuff, who is so weird because I hadn't seen or heard anything about him in years. And I just saw yesterday on social media, he's still out there. He was Roy Acuff's nephew.
Oh,
and
wow. Okay.
Oftentimes him and his band would be loading into a club as we were loading out, and vice versa, because he was playing these, clubs where you play 5 nights, 6 nights a week, whatever. So we became friends because we'd catch each other loading in, loading out. We'd sit down, have a beer, visit one. And he was, telling me the same thing that Nashville had told him. And here's a guy that guy sang tremendous, and he played about 5 different instruments. And Nashville, that the business had changed. It was they really weren't going and finding people anymore like they used to, discovering people. As you probably know in the industry, that's been gone for a long time.
Right.
People go to Nashville and you work on buying a deal to some degree,
or social media, hook up with people, LinkedIn,
well,
Facebook, Twitter, X, and all that.
Yeah, this was before social media even existed, right? This was long before that. This was 25 plus years ago. But anyhow, 15 years ago, I went to Bob Wills Days, which is an incredible music festival in West Texas. They hold it every year in April. It's the last Thursday, Friday, Saturday of April. It's referred to as the Super Bowl of Western Swing. All the greats are there. The famous people show up. People like Willie Nelson, Hawkeye Henson, asleep at the wheel. You just never know who's going to show up. Gary P. Nunn. And all the greats like Jody Nix, Jason Robertson, the Texas Playboys, Billy Mata, Tommy and Jake Hooker, Greg Gibbs. I mean, I don't want to leave anybody out, but Chuck Cusimano, all the greats in Western swing, Rocky King, Kelly Spinks, on and on. I love that event. So anyhow, same thing happened that year. I went. They noticed me as a dancer, and people are like, "Who is this guy?" Because I can cut a rug, son. And,
You do a great job of it.
and then they find out you're a singer. So next thing you know, I'm on stage, and now I've been singing at that festival for 15 years. They have 4 stages there that have dance floors, and have been lucky enough to perform on 3 out of the 4, hoping that I'll get the big nighttime dance under my belt one of these days. Jason Roberts told me that he was going to get me on the main stage one of these days, and I hope that happens. He's one of my heroes. But the year before last, I got to sing at the Church of Western Swing, which is actually a dance hall show theater, but it used to be a church, and they converted it over. And it's very prestigious. It's invite only. All the Hall of Fame guys that played for George Strait, Hank Thompson, Ray Price, all these big famous Western swing stars, to Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys, they play there all week long during that festival. And I finally got the invite, and I've sang there 2 years in a row now, and looking forward to this year. Then 8 years ago, Grady Smith, who's a Hall of Fame fiddle player, he liked what I was doing. He had seen me at Bob Wills' days. He got myself and my steel guitar player, a guy named Larry Bressington from Bristol, England, who's in the Great Britain's Country Music Hall of Fame and the Nebraska Country Music Hall of Fame. He got both of us to join the Western Swing Society, which was the best thing that ever happened to me. I wish I'd known about that organization 25 years earlier, because it gave me an incredible lifeline to musicians. I'm working with guys that played for all these big stars like George Strait, like Ray Price, like Hank Thompson, on and on. And they embraced me. They were kind to me. They liked what I was doing. They were really encouraging, which, I didn't think at the time. I didn't know if I was even worthy, but they definitely took me under their belt. During the COVID, I'm trying to give you as brief a story, and I know it's a long one, but during the COVID, I re-released an old album. I re-released the song that we'd recorded at United Artists Tower in Nashville, and it blew up on radio, and I ended up nominated for 2 big national awards. I was up for Western Swing Album of the Year and for Western Swing Male Vocalist of the Year by the Academy of Western Artists, which was something I never thought would happen to me. And it was a godsend. It wasn't a goal of mine. It just came. I got the phone call Monday after Christmas that I'd been nominated and selected as a top 10 finalist. Then months later, they cut the field down in half, and I qualified. I made the top 5 in both categories.
Oh, amazing.
So I got to go to the big red carpet thing, which was wonderful. They hold that at TCU in Fort Worth, Texas. And I won the Western Swing Male Vocalist of the Year, which was huge. 8 days later, I had 2 Nashville record labels wanting to sign me, and the 3rd label talking to me. I committed to Clarksville Creative Sound primarily because of the producer, Kurt Ryle, who had produced artists like Mel Tillis, Gene Watson, Vern Gosdin, Trisha Yearwood, Billy Ray Cyrus, Leanne Womack, on and on. I went and spent 3 weeks at his house. He had gold and platinum records all over the walls. I was like a kid in a candy store. It was like being in a country music, museum. And he's a tremendous producer. We put a new album out. We did the world premiere radio release on May 13th of last year of 23. And we released it to all worldwide radio on May 15th. The world premiere was one of the best world premieres that they'd had in a long time, according to the disc jockey there. It was broadcast 8 times in 6 different countries. Then on May 15th, we released it to all worldwide radio. I was notified in October that it's the most played Western Swing album on radio in the world.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's up for 2 Ameripolitan Awards for Album of the Year, and they have me also for Western Swing Male Vocalist of the Year. We're up for 6 awards at the International Singer-Songwriter Association. We're up for 5 awards at the Red Carpet Awards in the Netherlands. We finished in the top 5 for Cowboy Swing Album of the Year by the International Western Music Association. And album sales have been tremendous. And they're still selling. It's a fantastic album. Kurt Ryle is a genius producer. There's some other things about him that don't please me, but as a producer, he's top notch. And so anyhow, I recently left that record label, and I'm currently talking to 2 other labels. One of them is Platinum Lux, that Merle Haggard's son, Noel Haggard, is involved with that. There's another label out of Houston that's talking to me. I'm a little gun shy because the last 13 months, I dealt with some dishonesty and lies and intentional misleading and so forth, stuff in the industry that's not pleasant.
Right.
But I'm going to have some lawyers look over these new contracts. Hopefully everything's on the up and up. All I want to do is do what I do. And I like live. People who are like, don't you love recording? And, when I was doing this new album, people are like, aren't you excited about this new project? It's not that I don't like recording, and I'm thrilled with the finished product, but I would tell my friends I'll be glad when it's behind me, because what I love to do, I love to be on stage. I love to interact with the people. I love a live audience. That's where I thrive. That's what I do best. That's what I was born to do. Yeah.
And certainly, indeed, as well. We'll talk about your latest release, All of Me with Eric Diamond. But first, listen to the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by SoundWeb Studios. Visit online at soundwebstudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. SonicWeb Studios is the answer. SonicWeb Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today, 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 20% off your first project. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, time to give an official shout out to our official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. If you love fast-paced mysteries, you love Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing is fast-paced and intriguing with an unforgettable twist. Takes place in 4 countries, 2 strangers, 1 target, where truth is illusion and those who love be the first go missing. It's available on Amazon in paperback and ebook. Missing by Mia Molson-Zia has garnered great reviews, and Eve 11 enjoys by Howard celebrities, including Joanna Cassidy, Forbes Riley, and Nails. So grab your copy today for Girls Missing by Mia Molson-Zia, available on Amazon. Also, check out the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com or 40 podcast platforms. Heard in 100 countries, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, iHeartRadio, also Apple Music, Odyssey, Amazon, Audible. Coming soon to Pandora, Buzzsprout, Pandora, and TuneIn. Follow us on BitChute, LinkedIn, Instagram, Rumble, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, and more. Follow us on social media and take us with you on any mobile device. And for great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. T-shirts, pop sockets, throw pillows, tote bags, hoodies. Makes great gifts 24/7, 365 for family, friends, and loved ones. Go to Amazon.com. Check out the Mike Wagner Show podcast. And for more great gift ideas, go to Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia for great books like Missing, Once, and Wrinkles. Also t-shirts, pop sockets, hoodies, phone cases, and more. Amazon.com/Mia Molson-Zia. Check it out today and support the Mike Wagner Show on Anchor FM, PayPal, and the MikeWagnerShow.com. We're here with the amazing multi-talented singer-songwriter from the southwest corner of the United States, Eric Diamond, here on the Mike Wagner Show with All of Me. And let's talk about your latest release. After going through such an amazing career you went through, I wish I hit the road with you and had some great stuff and everything. You've got the title track, Oklahoma Bound, When Right is Wrong, and everything. Tell us more about the latest release and what inspired to write them.
Well, Western swing has always come and gone in cycles. And fortunately for me, it is on the upswing big time, headed towards the peak again. So my timing was fortunate. And the record label that I was involved with for 13 months or so, one of the things they're trying to do is bring Western swing back into the forefront, and also create new Western swing is one of their main objectives by writing new Western swing songs as well. So I was lucky to be involved with that. There's a gentleman named Mike Marcourt who just did a 3-year documentary on the history of Western swing, which is wonderful. It's won awards in London and Paris. It's been viewed. They've been doing showings for the last 2 or 3 years around the United States. It's going to be on PBS television. It's going to be much like the Ken Burns series on the history of country music. It's that sort of deal. And so, and Western swing in my career, I've done traditional, what most people would call traditional country music, probably the majority of my career, although I always did some Western swing songs. And I really didn't, when I first started, I didn't know the difference really. I just thought Western swing, it was like my favorite traditional country music. You can't sit still to Western swing music. Your foot's tapping, you're dancing, you're bopping your head. It's wonderful music. If anybody's not familiar with it, go listen to some Asleep at the Wheel.
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorites. I love those guys.
Yeah, that's my all-time favorite band, and they're the torchbearer, for all Western swing. They've won Grammys and gold records, platinum records, whatever. And there's many other great artists like Jody Nix, Jason Robertson, Playboy, Billy Mata, the Hookers. I mean, there's a bunch of them out there. I don't want to leave anybody out, but I know I'm going to. You know what I mean? Anyhow, so we knew we were going to do a Western swing album, and that's what I've been doing exclusively for the last 15 years is Western swing music. It's what I love the most. It's what I feel like I do the best. It's certainly what I'm most passionate about. So the title track, All of Me, which I believe you're going to play, or you
yes, that's correct.
Anyhow.
And I believe you had sent that over. And if you haven't, sent it over after the show, and we are looking forward to that. And tell us more about that song, All of Me, and what inspired you to write it.
Yeah, well, I didn't write that song or I'd be filthy rich. But a lot of big people have recorded that song, from Frank Sinatra to who's the Rat Pack?
Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, and Sammy
Dean
Davis
Martin.
Jr.
Yeah, Dean Martin, Willie Nelson. I mean, on and on. People have cut that song, and I've loved that song since I was a teenager. I was excited that I was going to have a lot of artistic freedom on this record. So I definitely wanted to record it. I'd been doing it for 2.5 years in our live shows. Audiences love it. It's one of the songs I feel like I really sing well. And so I was excited. So we recorded that. And when all the songs were finished, Kurt Ryle felt like that was the best cut. And I thought it was tremendous. And, we've gotten a lot of rave reviews from professional music reviewers and magazines around the world. And it's done extremely well on radio. So we made that the title track of the album. We're on all music platforms worldwide. So anybody watching us, listening to this show, go to YouTube, type in Eric Diamond, All of Me, and that'll take you where you can listen to both albums, all total of 22 songs. So that's that on All of Me. Oklahoma Bound is the song that we did write. Myself and Kurt Ryle wrote that song. It was the first song we wrote together. And we wrote it in about 15 minutes. We knew we were going to do Western swing. Obviously, that was the whole project. He wanted to write something about Oklahoma. He was born in Oklahoma. And Oklahoma has a lot of history in Western swing, with the historic Cain's Ballroom, the house that Bob built. Mm-hmm. And so we started this song. He came up with the title of Oklahoma Bound. And I think he might have spit out the first line. And then I came with the second line. Then he came with the third line, fourth line me, fifth line him. And literally, we did that song. I mean, it was done in 15 minutes at the most.
Wow.
Boom, line, and it loved it. And of course, everybody in the state of Oklahoma loves that song right now. But it's done great on radio around the world. And that feels good when you do that with a song that you wrote yourself, So that's the story of Oklahoma Bound. If you haven't listened to it, give it a listen. It's kind of a story song, pretty good. And then we also have two other songs that we wrote on the album. One's called Strike That Match. The other one's called Waylon, Willie, Haggard, and Jones. Both of those have done extremely well on radio. And Strike That Match is a real interesting song. It borderlines on honky tonk. And the young people seem to really like that song, which is great, because I want to try to reach all ages and generations with my music. So I'm glad that the young people really seem to love that one. And then there's a song you mentioned called When Right is Wrong.
Right.
And that was written by a friend of mine, Edward Williams, a songwriter out of the Dallas Fort Worth area. I didn't know Edward until, oh gosh, 2 years ago, I guess. He reached out to me, and at the time he was actually working for the record label. He's no longer with them, but when I went down to cut this album, I flew into Nashville. Kurt Robb picked me up at the airport, and I stayed at his house for 3 weeks. And he said, I got a song. It's on hold for Tony Booth, who's one of my heroes and a legend. But the songwriter, who was Edward, said that if Eric Diamond wants to cut this song, let him have it. And I listened to the song, and I was like, yeah, definitely. It sounded like something that should be on a George Strait album. It wasn't a real upbeat swing song, but it was definitely a slow swing, something along the lines of like Drinking Champagne, or one of those slower swingy tunes. Mm-hmm. So we recorded it, and I'm thrilled about having it on the album as well. And then we wrote a fourth song that we were going to put on the album, but I actually couldn't tackle it. It was out of my vocal range. And so another artist named Lonnie Bartmus wanted to record it. He's a tremendous singer, very, very, very talented. And he wanted the song, and I thought, heck yeah, let's have him do it, And so he's got one of my songs on his album as well. So that's pretty much the story on that. And I got quite a few standards on the album. We put San Antonio Roads on there. That was a late decision. Kurt goes, what do you think this album needs? And I said, it needs one big standard. And there's no bigger song in Western swing than San Antonio Rose. I mean, that's the song that took Bob Wills from Hamburger and put him on Steak. And so we put that on the album, and I thought we did a fantastic job. We had Tommy White playing steel guitar. He's one of the finest all time. He's the staff player on the Opry. We had Wanda Vick playing fiddle. She's a 5-time national champion. So all the musicians were incredible. They loved working on the project because this is a fun kind of music for musicians of that caliber to play. And they don't get that opportunity that much doing more of the bubblegum mainstream country.
Right. So
they were thrilled to do this album. I found that with both albums, both times, because the first one I recorded with United Artists Tower in Nashville, and the musicians also said, they were all so nice to me, and they're like, we love doing this project because it was the kind of country music that they all loved, and the whole reason they had originally moved to Nashville. Then with the industry change, they didn't get to play this kind of music as often as they would like by any means. So they all put their best foot forward and did an amazing job on both albums. And I had different musicians on both albums, but great heavyweights. Jim Unger played fiddle on the first album. At that time, he was considered the #2 fiddle man, only behind Johnny Gimbel. We had Big Jim Murphy play saxophone, who was the most famous saxophone player in the world at that time. He was in the movie The Blues Brothers.
Oh, yeah, my favorite movie, The Blues Brothers. I love that movie.
We had Smiley Roberts on steel guitar, who had played for Dan Seals. And Smiley was great. Smiley's still playing in the Nashville area and still doing session work to this day. And we had Jim Reeves, the rhythm section from the Opry. Gene Breeden did the producing, but he liked the album so much, he asked if he could play guitar on it. And Gene was a session player that had played on gold records for artists like Red Sovine. So I said, absolutely. So he played guitar on it. My old band leader, Ellis Miller, who was a session player on the West Coast and had played for Ray Price and Hank Thompson, he played all the rhythm guitar tracks, and he played some lead too. And then we had Eugene Moles did most of the lead guitar work. He toured with Merle Haggard for 13 years. So, we had Sudie Calloway and Lois Johnson on harmony vocals. I was just lucky and blessed to have the opportunity to work with these kind of musicians. And it shows in the albums. They're both really good albums.
And certainly,
if anybody's, sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Just real quick, the music's available on all music platforms worldwide. If you want to know more about me and Western Swing, you can follow me on Facebook. Send me a message on Facebook if you want to buy the albums. I've been selling them like mad. And I tell everybody this, and I don't know of any other artist in the country doing this, but if you don't like the album, comes with 100% money back guarantee. That's how good it is.
All right. We'll certainly keep that in mind. And more about All Me with Eric Diamond. We'll talk about the four legends in the that album. We'll find out just one minute who they are and a recap with Eric Diamond. Listen to the Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Songwriter Studios, and brought to you by official sponsor of the Mike Wagner Show, international warring author Mia Molson-Zia. We'll be back with the multi-talented singer songwriter from the Southwest, Eric Diamond, after this time out. We're back to the amazing, multi-talented singer-songwriter Eric Diamond here on the Mike Wagner Show. And Eric, there's one thing about All of Me as well, too. Let's cover the four legends who you talked about in that album and one of your favorites. And who are those four legends?
Well, I assume you're talking about a song titled Waylon, Willie, Haggard, and Jones.
That's the one. Yes, that's what I was getting at.
So, yeah, I mean, all those guys were a huge influence in my life and everybody involved in country music. I mean, those are four of the biggest, influence and tremendous artists. So we came up with this title, and Kurt and I decided we decided to make all the verses out of songs from these artists.
Mm-hmm.
And so all the verses are made up of Willie, Waylon, Haggard, and Jones songs. And we did slip an Ernest Tubb song in there because it made the song work and made the song make sense. Of course, Ernest Tubb was the inspiration to all of those guys and to me as well. And it is the one song on the album that's really not a Western swing song. It's more of what you'd call a traditional country music song. At first, I wasn't excited about putting a waltz on the album. But Kurt said, you really need one. But after we were done, it turned out one of the absolute best songs on the album.
Nice.
And I knew that Nashville would embrace it. It's a great song. Go listen to it. The musicians knocked it out of the park. I felt like the songwriting was very good and very clever. And it's been very successful on radio. Matter of fact, some stations that don't necessarily want to play Western swing music on their shows, they're playing the heck out of that one because it's solid country gold. Yes, sir.
And certainly indeed as well, too. And once again, where can we find All of Me and where can we find how it works at, Eric?
Well, you can find the two albums are called Eric. The first one's called Eric Diamond, They Call Me a Playboy. The brand new album is Eric Diamond, All of Me. It is available on all music platforms worldwide. You can purchase it on iTunes, but I don't recommend that, but you can. Buy it from me, get a hold of me on Facebook Messenger is the best way to order the CD. Well, of course, we sell them at live performances anywhere we go. It was available through the old record label. I'm not certain if they're still selling it or not. I know that will come to a close fairly soon once I either commit to a new label or decide to remain independent. I really want to work with these labels. I just want to make sure everything's on the up and up and honest and straightforward because over the last year or so, I've dealt with the opposite of that. And right. I want to work with good, honest people. And that's all I'm asking for is I just want to work, man. Let me sing and entertain. Help me help you, man. You know what I mean? Let me put some money in your pocket. If there's any tour promoters out there watching this, give me a shot. You won't be disappointed.
All right. We'll let the promoters and everybody know about you, Eric, as well. Too, we're here with the amazing multi-talented Eric Diamond of All of Me here on the Mike Wagner Show. And just a few more things, Eric. We'd love to have you back on. And what else can we expect in 2024 and beyond?
Well, I'll be performing at all the events of the Western Swing Society of the Southwest. Our first thing is March 21, 22, 23 in Wichita Falls, Texas. You can get on the internet, look up the Western Swing Society of the Southwest. You can get their entire calendar. I'll be performing at all those shows unless something conflicts. But right now I'm going to be performing all those shows. I'll be at the Bob Wills Day Festival. I'll be at the Mineral Wells. I just got notified today, and this means Governor Abbott in Texas started an awards thing a handful of years ago, and I just got notified that I will be considered a hero of Western swing, and
Nice.
I will get my award in Mineral Wells, Texas, and I believe that's the first week of May. I will be performing at the Snyder Festival in June. I'm not a headliner there, but I will be in the Wednesday night opening ceremony band. That was a good. I did that deal last year. I sang 4 songs and I sold $680 worth of CDs in cash sales and another 200 plus in trade. So that was a good festival. I'll be back at Snyder, and then depending on what happens with this new label, they're talking about using me for the PRCA shows and the PBR. They really want to push me towards Branson, which I would love to work in Branson.
That's a dream of everybody.
Yeah, I'm really hoping to get the opportunity. I've been performing in Springfield, Missouri for the last 8 years, which is only 40 miles out of Branson. The president of the Western Swing Society in Missouri is a gentleman named Walter Lehman, wonderful guy. He's been trying to talk me into moving up there, which I would certainly do if I had a sit down, regular, steady job in Branson. So we'll see what happens. They also want to use me on the state fair tours. So maybe I'll be coming to your home state, you know. Well, if you like to dance, that's what we do. Big orchestration, big band, and dance music.
And you're certainly more than welcome to come to the Peace Garden State. We'll be happy to have you on board, Eric. And who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Well, as far as an artist, Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys. But my favorite singer all time, people ask me all the time, who's your favorite singer? And there's so many of them I love, but I'd have to say Ray Price would be my number one. Marty Robbins would be in the top 3, and so would Farron Young. And I've also always been a huge Hank Thompson fan. And of course, George Strait, for everybody my age. I mean, George Strait set the standard. Everybody modeled themselves or tried to model themselves after Strait. I mean, he's second only to God in the state of Texas.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, as they say, God bless Texas.
Fan of George Strait. Yeah, absolutely. So many influences, though, you know. So many influences. Even the guys that are still doing. I mean, Jody Nix, Jason Roberts, Billy Mata, Jake Hooker, Tommy Hooker. Those guys are all heroes of mine. Rocky King, Jeff Woolsey, Kelly Spinks. Kelly's the staff fiddle player on the Penny Gilly Show. Tremendous singer, tremendous fiddle player. He's really been kind to me and helped my career. Chuck Cusimano's a legend. He actually got a Living Legend award by the CMA of Texas last year.
Nice.
And he's won a bunch. He's in a ton of Hall of Fames. He's worked for a bunch of the Grand Ole Opry stars. I knew about Chuck for years because he was from Colorado as well. And then we met at the Western Swing Hall of Fame induction in Lawton, Oklahoma 8 years ago. We've been friends ever since. He's really helped my career. J.D. Barnum and Cow Jazz, John Jones, the president of the association. Joe Settlemeyer is one of my biggest heroes. He's considered the greatest jazz guitar player on planet Earth. He plays guitar at 95% of my showcases. He was a Texas Playboy for Bob Wills, a Cherokee Cowboy for Ray Price, a Brazos River Valley boy for Hank Thompson. He played for Roy Clark, Willie Nelson, played with the Glenn Miller Orchestra after Glenn was deceased, but he did session work for 20 years with Vince Gill, did session work for George Strait. He's in every Hall of Fame, and he's won every award in the music business, not just the country music business. He's won every award in the music business that an instrumentalist can win. He's like a father to me. Shout out to Joe Settlemeyer.
All right, we'll certainly do that. And what's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
That's starting out, or what do you mean?
It just the best advice in general.
The best advice in general in the music business concern.
It can be it can be anything.
Well, since we're talking music, let's talk music. If you're an artist and you're in the game already, And the best guy in the world for radio promotion and the most honest guy that I've ever dealt with in the music business is a kid named Caden Gordon. I read about him in a magazine. I read about him on the internet. I tried him out, and he was the best thing that's ever happened to me. He's honest. He works harder than anybody I know. I didn't think anybody could outwork me. I mean, because I was putting in 16-hour days, 7 days a week. And this kid works every bit that hard. And he just won Radio Promoter of the Year at the Red Carpet Awards in the Netherlands. He's honest and he makes results happen. So if you're an artist, you look up Caden Gordon. He's going to help your career, I promise you.
All right, we'll certainly do that as well. Once again, with the multi-talented singer-songwriter from the Southwest, Eric Diamond, with all of me here on the Mike Wagner Show. Eric, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely fantastic. Learned a lot. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Love having you back. Once again, what's your website? How do people contact you? Where can people purchase or check out your works?
Well, Caden Gordon runs and operates my website. See, 3 years ago, I thought Wi-Fi was an Oriental dessert. So when it comes to technology, I hire professionals. But however one does go find a website, I imagine you just type in Eric Diamond. But Caden runs all that. I'm available on all music platforms worldwide. Come see me at a show. We'll dance. We'll drink a beer. You can buy my album. It comes with a money-back guarantee. Follow me on Facebook. Send me a messenger message. I'll get a CD in the mail to you tonight. You won't be disappointed.
And certainly not disappointed indeed. And once again, Eric, a very big thank you for your time. You've been absolutely amazing. Looking forward to having you again soon. Keep us up to date. Keep in touch. Live have you back. We wish all best. And Eric, you definitely have a great future ahead of you.
Thank you for everything. I'll come back anytime. You have a good night. God bless you.